Welcome to the Artist Academy podcast, a place where we focus on the business side of art to help you attract more customers, to increase your profits, to ultimately live a life of creativity and financial freedom. I'm your host, Andrea Earhart, and this week we have an interview with Kendall Kippley. She is a muralist out of Colorado, and she is the product of having really great mentorship from day one. She is, I'd say, a young muralist who is doing big things with an amazing style of painting, and she's painting in the style that she wants to paint. And I think that's the ultimate goal for a lot of artists and muralists alike. We want to paint what we want to paint and get paid for it. And Kendall has figured it out. So I ask her all the questions about how she's getting commissioned to paint in her very unique style. But if you are not familiar with her, go check out her Instagram. You'll see how very well curated it is, with videos and photos of her just very saturated, brilliant, nature-inspired art. So you can see why I was very drawn to her. But yeah, let me know what you think about this week's episode with Kendall Kippley. All right, Kendall, tell me all the things. Murals, how did you get into this? And I'm mostly really interested in your mural aesthetic. I go to your Instagram and it is just, you've got it down. You've got the cool like waves and the blues and all the colors. And I would love to know how you got into this, like the very early days. And then we can talk business and things, but how specifically you're getting hired to paint really cool stuff, which is what artists want, right? You're doing stuff in your style.
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely really important to me that the work that I do is all the stuff that I want to make. And I know that looks different for so many people, but I think the reason I'm drawn to paint at this scale and do this style is just because I have an intrinsic love for water and the water cycle and geology and natural, all kind of culminating from a background in natural earth sciences and natural sciences. I started as an artist really young. I've always been kind of attuned to it, but I grew up here in Colorado with the Rocky Mountains as my backyard, and my dad and mom were really about bringing me and my sisters into the mountains and doing adventurous stuff whenever they could and when it made sense. So I think I've always been observing through that lens of through nature and always felt my best there. So going into painting about it, it's kind of it makes a lot of sense, but there's a very specific path that kind of got me here, which was starting really young as an artist and my parents really supporting that and wanting that to flourish and not really knowing how to help me really, but wanting to. So I ended up going to an art school for middle school and high school, and that was for painting and drawing. So I did that when I was growing up, and it was kind of like what you would imagine, High School Musical or a classic art school. There's no sports, it's all performing and visual arts. So it was a really cool environment to grow up in as a kid, and they treated us like professionals back even then. So that really had an impact on, I think, why I take it so seriously as a professional. But then I went to college I kind of wasn't sure if I wanted to continue with drawing and painting or what I really wanted to do. So I decided to go to a big school, and I went to Colorado State University here in Colorado to see if there was anything else that I would be interested in outside of painting and drawing. Because I think a lot of us find that the path sometimes seems really narrow if you're into fine art, which is why I love so much that we're here talking about murals and mural art, because it's really such a unique path to end up on, but it is getting more accessible and it's becoming more defined as a valid career path, I would say. Yeah, so I started back at CSU and I stayed in the painting and drawing program, but I also took a lot of other classes in sustainability, and thought maybe I wanted to study geology and weather or something to do with rocks and water. And as I took those classes, it started to influence my painting and drawing work. So I made my first painting about ice in my sophomore year of college. And then I pretty much never stopped because I love it.
I love that. Okay, bravo to your parents for putting you in a school like that. I've been interviewing for a
Yeah.
long time, I feel like, and I've never heard of that. I didn't know that that was an option, and that sounds like so much fun. And you're around other people that are similar to you,
Yes.
and that's so cool. Okay, I was just going in my head, I'm like, oh, that's such a good idea. If I have a son or daughter who's in down, like maybe I can, and I'm like, oh, wait, we're in the middle of nowhere, Missouri. Like, we don't have a whole lot of.
You can create one.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. I like that. Okay, so you started off painting in the way that you want to paint, and I think that's step one, right? So you probably created it for free at in the beginning, and then slowly got paid for it.
Yeah, I always was interested in recreating nature through my art, like whether it was drawing from life or trying to interpret it. And that I think that's how I kind of came to the style that I do, which is I call it like abstract environmental storytelling because it is based in reality and it is based on images of things in nature, but it's not realism necessarily.
I love it. I love it so much because I have a similar, I love nature, but I'm like, let's add some vibrancy to this and
Yes.
go from there. Okay. Do you get requests for things that are not in your wheelhouse, or have you done things like painting a logo for a business or painting pet portraits or anything that's kind of weird? Do you get that?
Yeah, I definitely get, I think when people see that you can do any type of painting and they have a vision for something that they want to do, they will always ask whoever they think could do it. So I think even though I have a very defined style on my Instagram and platforms, like people will still ask me those things. And it depends on what it is, whether I decide to take that project or not. But I try to do only things that are within my like aesthetic as long as I can interpret it that way. But I can do like copy paste logo painting, and I've done that before just because to keep busy with work, and I have done some of that, but not very much.
Do you post about it or no?
I don't usually, unless it's like a brand or a company that's really aligned with my overall goals as a creative. I usually don't, but I will do those things sometimes as favors.
Okay, yeah. So everybody listening, first create the style that you want to create, put it out there. I'm sure more than once, right? I'm sure you have to do it several times. Can you tell us about maybe those early days where how you started to
Yeah.
get paid for it, or how did that work? Like, did you do one for free for a friend, or like how were the first like 5 projects?
Yeah. So I was really lucky as far as getting into to bridging the gap from oil, like traditional oil painting, to doing large scale mural installations is not, at least at the time I was coming up into it, there weren't like Instagram videos or YouTube channels of people talking about how to do it or how much to charge or what to use and how to transfer your design. So I entered an apprenticeship program with an artist who was already doing large scale mural installations here in Colorado. Her name is Anna Charney. She's also my best friend now, but she kind of took me under her wing, and that's how she learned. Took was under somebody else's wing for several years, and so I was kind of the same. I was like, how on earth do you like? Does somebody like allow you to paint their wall in this way that you want? How do you even make it look like what you want? Like spray paint was such a new medium for me, and I knew that I wanted to make big paintings about ice and water, but I didn't know like how to do that at all. So I actually started by apprenticing for her for 5 years, and we painted her murals together. So I had to learn exactly how to paint her style so that we could do bigger walls together. And that taught me everything I needed to know about how to like set up a composition and transfer designs onto the wall, and also how to kind of navigate the conversational space between artist and client. And it took me a long time to figure it out. And I would say that I'm still figuring it out in so many ways. Like every day in this reality is a little bit different. And you do just kind of, that's why your community is really important. And things like this are important to have transparency and to have people that you can lean on to as a point of reference. So I do think that that's really important when you're starting out. And I started Like my very first one totally on my own was actually in some of my friends' backyard, but they treated me just like a normal business owner, which I really respected too, because I was like, oh, okay, well, here I made this whole plan and I don't really know what I'm doing, but I was like trying to fake it till I make it. And they really treated me like a professional and went through the whole process with me and honored my rate and honored all of that. So it kind of was like, okay, I can do this. And also like your friends who are the ones who are supporting you, if, you know, obviously getting wall space is great, but it is nice when your friends actually support the whole process too in the beginning. And they're like, we'll pay you the rate you deserve and we'll do the whole project like as if we were clients that you didn't know. And I think that helped me a lot because it made me feel like I could believe in myself and go forward, and that people would also want me to do things for them, but even if they didn't know me.
Yeah, you sound like you have better friends than I. My friends are cheap. So
Yeah, yeah, it depends.
yeah, I was doing one thing and somebody asked like, "Hey, how much would it be to paint that for my kid?" I was like, "Well, like I mean, at least $100 for." And they're like $100, and I was like, I was literally giving you like the biggest friend discount over
Yeah.
saying that.
Oh my gosh, I know. I'm so curious. It's like I feel like you also have after like, going through your page and looking through some of your work, it's really cool to see your transparency, but also your growth in your rates for different projects. And it's something that I also do adopt. I like to try to offer something at different price points so that even people who are on like the lower end can still get something. It just won't be as like highly detailed or complex as something that is obviously.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think is your like? So most people that I interview, they have some kind of special sauce that is your thing that gets you jobs. Like, what do you think your special sauce is that you can pass on to listeners, or something that like you would advise to definitely do this when working with a customer, how to get jobs or something?
Well, yeah, especially now that the world is expanded in not only like on social media, but I think there's just more people doing what we do. And to stand out and, well, really, I do believe in really being strong in your style and your voice. If you are pursuing a path of like, you said that like I have a kind of defined style that you can pretty much expect that all murals are going to fit within that aesthetic and theme. And I do pretty much stick to that. And I think that it's important if you do have a strong pull towards something to really try to find your niche and just keep making the stuff that you like to make and trying to find the people who agree with that and wouldn't ask you to do something else. However, like there is the other end of that where you can paint and draw anything and you just want to paint walls. So having your portfolio really represent what it is that you want to paint, like whether you do want to paint logos and like or you do want to paint like natural scenes and you're willing to do different styles, like just make sure you have that laid out in your portfolio, very easy to see. And if you're going kind of more the route I do, the same thing, like just be really defined. And also I prioritize opportunities that reflect that style. Like I look for residencies and festivals and opportunities that align with that aesthetic. Like a rec center is a great thing for me because it's water and it's like lifestyle, and I really do try to tailor my energy to applying for things that go with that, I guess, identity.
Yeah, no, that's great. And as you're talking, I'm just thinking about how I could do better about that, about taking maybe a couple things off of my website that I don't necessarily love doing. And that way the other stuff can shine through. Because I think when in the beginning, you paint anything, most people do, especially here in small town Missouri, where there's not a whole lot of people around to do the things that I really want to do. So I kind of made myself a jack of all trades in a way. But now I'm getting
Yeah.
to a point, which is why I was so drawn to you, of like, I really want to paint the stuff that I really want to paint and
Yeah.
not necessarily do a little bit of everything. So I'm like, yeah, so maybe if a listener was listening and thinking, how can I paint the things that I really want to paint? It's like, okay, go first, like, delete all the stuff that you don't, or at least
Which is
go
hard.
hide it. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's hard because you are proud. Like there are plenty of things that I've done that I'm really proud of that don't necessarily like fit the way that I want to go. And that is something really hard for me. I did that once. I did that, like, I would say maybe it was like 5 years ago. I just wiped my Instagram of all of the stuff that just wasn't what I want people to hire me for. And so, like, knowing very well that I can paint anything and I still have fun doing that, I've kind of adopted the principle that my mentor taught me, which is we should also always be having fun. Like, if you're doing this, like, it's not always going to be fun, but at least when it comes to the fun part, which is doing the painting, you should be like so engaged and so excited about the work that you're making, because that's really the only way that you'll be able to sustain showing up to do the hard part of making this your career too.
Yeah, so true. Because the business stuff is often not the most fun part, even though
Yeah.
that's what we talk about the most. And it's fun in a way. It's fun to, give big quotes or get a job in this way and do the things. But the painting is the fun part and should be more enjoyable. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. And it is like, yeah, it makes it like you feel, I don't know, at least for me when I'm talking to clients and they're really excited and we're throwing around like those numbers for something that I'm like, wow, this is like really cool because it is exactly what I would want to paint. And I have like full trust in from the people that hire me to do this, that my work will fit their vision too. So that's always feels really cool.
Yeah. Okay. So I think part two, if somebody's listening and they're so inspired by you and they want to be hired to paint what they want to paint, it's finding the people or putting yourself in front of the people who are going to hire you. So what kind of people are hiring you to do the style that you love to do?
Yeah, so a lot of the like this secondary and kind of like the deeper layer to a lot of the work I do is at the heart of it climate related. So I seek out opportunities or alliances with brands and organizations that support artistic storytelling as part of like the environmental story. So when I'm looking for work, I'm usually looking for people who think the same way that I do. Like, I'm an outdoor lover. I love water and ice and snow. And I've always been really drawn to like ski and snowboarding industry, or like even I work with a company called Protect Our Winters, and I'm on their creative alliance team, which basically they'll just ask me to come and either advise on, I'll sit on like panels and talk about how art and climate storytelling go together. And that has helped me a lot to get to know other people who are working in that space. So I work actually with like a lot of colleges and universities and city civic centers who are all promoting kind of like the connection that humans and community have to nature and environment.
Okay, so do you get hired by the ski resorts themselves or brands that put out ski gear, or what exactly?
Yeah, so the one like some of the examples I would use is I did a project with the brand Arc'teryx, and that was through they were opening a new store in Rhino, which is kind of, if you're familiar with Colorado, Rhino is the arts district here in Denver. And they've kind of, it started out as really like raw graffiti, like street art scene. And it wasn't very organized mural painting for a long time. It was very like raw and filtered and just totally natural, like people going and tagging walls and this and that. And then now it's become such an like a big area for art that they have started curating. And there's a program called the Rhino Mural Program, and a lot of cities have stuff like that, so it's really worth it to like look into your own city and see if there's any mural programs or like public art programs. Here in Denver, we have the Denver Arts and Venues and Rhino Mural Program, and businesses like Arc'teryx will reach out to them and say, hey, we're opening a storefront in this district and we want somebody to paint our wall. But then so the business goes to the mural program, and then the mural program provides them a list of artists that they work with that are like trusted, and it's something that you upload your portfolio to, and it's kind of like a curator in a way, but there, since it is like a public program, it's not like you don't have to pay to be on that database or anything. You can like look through call for entry, which is a really great resource, and those opportunities will be available to apply to. Or if you have your work in that database, sometimes they will just pair you with a business. So that's what happened for me in Arc'teryx, which I was so excited for because they were a huge brand that I got to work with. And even though they didn't hire me directly, the mural program that I was associated with recommended me for it just based on like my style and like belief system around my painting. So that was one of the ways that I got to work with a huge brand that wasn't like them finding me directly. But then I did do some work for a ski resort in Washington that they reached out to me on Instagram. They're called 45 Degrees North, and they're trying to start doing like a more direct to artist approach for their season passes and like small mural installations throughout the season. And I would say like overall it's a pretty good mix of me going out of my way to like find and make these connections happen. Like I will send a lot of emails, cold emails kind of out to different brands that I would like to work with and try to find the right people to put my work in front of. And that takes a lot of time and effort and energy. And a lot of the time you don't get responses, but sometimes you do. And with Protect Our Winners, that's kind of how it went with my alignment with them, is they didn't know about me and they didn't really have an application system or anything like that. But I just really knew that there's a company and an organization that is really aligned in my beliefs. So I wanted to work with them. And so I sent them emails, and I actually already had a wall that I was doing for a festival. And I said, hey, can we collaborate on this? Like I already have it all figured out. And I would like your guys' messaging around this project if you're willing. And then they reached back out to me and they were like, yeah, we would actually, like, that's great. Because a lot of people, when you're going about that route, they don't necessarily have a lot of money to give, especially a nonprofit organization. But if it's something that you feel like that connection will benefit you long term, I do think it's worth it for those to do something that may or may not be an immediate payout or an immediate like project. It's just more like aligning yourself with the right people so that projects do come. And I guess an example of that would be that through that alignment and that creative partnership with Protect Our Winners, I've been connected to like 5 or 6 like mural opportunities that were through other people and that work in the outdoor industry or the climate conservation industry that knew about me through that and reached out to me to make projects happen.
Nice. Okay. Love it. So it's not necessarily just you applying to things. It's also you are just pitching yourself and having ideas ready, and not
Yes.
even just, hey, do you want to hire me? Just, hey, let's work together. I like that. And
Yeah, absolutely.
you're inspiring me to think, because I want to do a bunch of like raccoon murals in my very small town, because we used to be known as the raccoon capital of the world, and I just want to paint raccoon murals everywhere, but I don't want to do it for free. And so I was like,
no, exactly.
Yeah, it's like sponsorships. I was like, oh yeah, I could get a sponsor and I don't know who could be connected to a raccoon mural, but I'm just gonna put it out there and see who wants to sponsor it.
I think that's so smart because it is like I don't really like using the word manifesting, but when you put out there what you want to do, like if you're like, I want to paint a bunch of raccoons and you say it out loud to somebody might hear you, like you kind of are putting things out there. And that's kind of where I was at. I was like, well, I really want to be a full-time artist, but I don't want to do what I don't want to do. And I want to get paid well for what I do. So how do I do that? That's the hardest part. But just putting it out there and being like, with the Protect Our Winners one, that was actually one of the things that I wrote down in my college like exit survey was, I really want to work with this brand who like literally doesn't work with mural artists at all. They work with like outdoor skier and snowboarders, like famous people and famous or very noteworthy scientists. And they have like some partnerships with artists, but not anything like what I was doing. But you can kind of create a space for yourself in those things if you think you belong there. I think, I think that's how I've pretty much made my whole career work, is by saying, I think I could fit into this. I can convince them that they need me for something.
Yeah. My head is spinning with ideas. So thank you. I was like, oh,
Good, good.
yeah. Oh, I could create. I'm like, maybe I could just create a web page and be like, if you want to sponsor raccoon mural number 1, raccoon mural number 2, and then have like a spread out sheet of like, this is what it normally costs for a big mural, but this is the price for this one, and you will be included in photographs and like things like that. And
What I've learned is like people love to be involved. So if you can do a project where people who are going to see that project or like live with it can be involved somehow, not necessarily like directly in painting, but if there's something that you can do, like you were just saying, to involve like community, then there's a lot more willingness to support projects like that. And you just kind of can be really creative in figuring out how to make those happen.
yeah. Maybe I could just do a couple mock-ups even and post it in the local Facebook groups and be like, do you want to see these around town? Like, how
Yes.
fun would this be? Like, do you know of a
Yes.
wall? Do you know of a, yeah. Just putting out even, like, even though I don't have it all completely figured out, putting out the pieces that I do and saying, I'm getting this started. Who wants to help or something like that? Yeah. You just, yeah,
Yeah.
manifesting in a way of like action.
Yes, exactly. And you're still not doing any work for free. Just, maybe some of the preliminary sketches or like the energy that you're putting out to do stuff like that is technically energy that you should be getting compensated for too. But I definitely believe in like doing a little bit of that work can pay off really big in the long run.
Totally agree. What do you think the percentage wise is with like you applying to art calls or you getting things off of social media or Google or people reaching out to you? Like, are you getting most of your work?
I would say that it's a good blend of all of those things. Like I would say that it's actually less through Instagram and more through word of mouth and based on other projects I've done, people seeing those and getting my little tag off the wall and then just a lot of applications through Call for Entry, which is a database that I'm sure you've probably talked about or know about, but it's like callforentry.org. And that's where a lot of city centers and like civic buildings and big developments and stuff, they will post their opportunities through that website. So I apply for those and I try to just apply for ones that I think I actually have like a pretty decent chance on based on the description. I don't just apply for all of them because that takes a long time. But then I look at stuff through the city of Denver and through like specific city, like I guess like different cities in Colorado. They have different mural programs. And so I look for those and then I have private clients reach out to me, usually either through word of mouth or on Instagram. So I would say it's like a third of each of those things and pretty well balanced between opportunities like that.
Good to know. And are you painting this with a brush, spray? How are you painting these murals?
So I can do any medium, but I prefer doing spray paint because it's just such a fun, it's such like a powerful experience for me painting at that scale with spray paint. So most of my projects these days are fully spray paint with sometimes like some details in acrylic paint or like kind of like hardening of edges sometimes, but mostly all spray paint now.
Love it. And what's your favorite spray paint brand?
I really like the Montana 94s and the Montana Gold cans. They're my favorite because of the colors, like the blue shades they have a lot of blue shades, which is pretty unusual for spray paint brands. And I feel like it's pretty easy to find them anywhere you go. So you're not ever like, oh, I guess I'm traveling to this other city and they don't have this. But usually I order everything before a project to wherever I'm going beforehand as well.
Okay, so you get on Spray Planet, and
Yes.
yeah, that's what I've been doing lately too, because there's nowhere to buy anything here, and so I just order a bunch of
Yeah.
colors, and so you have it shipped to wherever you're going. Smart.
Yes.
Love
Yeah. And if you do it that way, the more you can order at once, the better deals you'll get too. Because obviously we're always trying to save money.
it. Yeah, love it. Okay, what are you charging for your murals, and like, so what's your like average cost of a mural like that you're doing next week or this week, and how do you figure up those costs?
Well, it totally depends like on size. So the size and scope are usually what I use to determine the price and level of complexity versus, but it's really hard. I kind of like, I struggle with the level of complexity one because once I'm on a wall and already in the mode to paint, I always want it to be the best it can be. So that's been a challenge for me is like really focusing on making designs that fit the wall for the price that I'm charging or getting. Because some clients will come to me with a budget and say they're like, this is my budget. It's, $6,000 and the wall is 20 feet by like 10 feet. I'm like, okay, well, I don't necessarily want to turn away the work as long as I'm reaching a minimum, which I've recently decided to do any project at all. I'm doing it for like a mural project installation on site. I'm not taking anything for less than $2,500. But within that range, so that's like pretty low range. So you can, if you have a small wall that I can design to be like pretty simplistic, then like I would say we can start there and then we work our way up from there. So some of the bigger projects I would say are up at like the $30 per square foot range for my work, most of my outdoor work. Then the price goes up for indoor work, more detailed work. So I would say for like a big wall, kind of that same size, I would like to be charging between like 15 and $30 per square foot for an average wall. And that just depends on the color. Like I'm using, like, am I using a lot of colors? Am I using like a few colors? And are the shapes really big or are they more intricate and small and detailed? Are there parts that I have to hand paint? Because when I'm doing hand painting, I charge more for that too, because it just takes so much longer.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah.
So around there.
Okay. For your interior work, have you ever used spray interior? I'm on the newer side to spray and I'm still
Yeah.
experimenting with it and topping it off quite a bit with a brush. But do you use spray interior ever?
Yes, I do. I do. I have been using just regular spray paint, like the stuff that we were just talking about, Montana Gold and Montana 94. Usually it's just between those two brands that I'm using because I also feel like they're higher quality. I still am wearing like a full mask inside and I try to cover my skin as much as possible. And then I also use like a ventilation system that actually my friend made for me. And it's just using like one of those big fans from Home Depot with a tube on it. So if I'm in a place that's like pretty small, it really helps to like get the air out. But I have also done projects inside where people like who are living there can't have any toxins. So there's a line of spray paint now that's like the 94s, or it's the, is it the, I think it's the Montana Golds. Either way, one of those two brands has a whole line of water-based spray paint now that doesn't have any toxins. So you can use that and it works pretty much the same way. There's just less color options. So there is an option to do full spray painted murals inside without using like the high toxicity spray paint. But I would say that about half of my work, commissioned work, is inside spray painting as well.
Oh, nice. Okay, good to know. Okay, tell me more about this fan with a tube thing.
Yeah, so my friend and I painted a mural inside of their house and they saw me kind of I always create like bubbles around the area that I'm painting. I try to make them as big as I can, but if I'm working in somebody's house or inside of a business where there's computers or anything like that, the biggest mess from spray painting is not like that you're going to miss or drip or drop. It's that there's a lot of dust created when you're doing it. And I don't know if like you've already experienced that from doing it yourself, but you would actually be so surprised when I tell clients, like, just so you know, spray painting is messy and not in the kind of way that you think painting is messy. It's actually like it releases a lot of dust into the air. So in order to protect the spaces around there, I create painter's bubbles. So using like plastic tarping kind of all like on the ceiling and all the way up to the wall that you're making, which is great and it works really well, but there's no circulation of air inside of there. And it's not good for you, but it's also kind of makes like the air really thick and dust falls everywhere and it just gets really messy and hard to walk around inside of those spaces. And usually it's not too bad because the walls are pretty big, but when I do small interior walls, that don't have a huge area and the bubble's pretty small, it gets really messy and really gassy very quickly. So the tube that my friend made, it's like an industrial level fan that, and I could send you some links if you wanted to put this into like a resource for people, but
Sure.
it's just, you can get it at any like Home Depot or Lowe's or anything like that, and you can see they have like the fans that they use on construction sites, so they're like plastic but they suck air out versus
Okay.
pushing air through.
Ooh.
And if you attach like a ventilation like tube to that and tape it on really well, you can suck air out of the space that you're working in, which is definitely it helps a lot.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to do that for sure. I had never really thought of that. That's that. So make a bubble and then make a fan with a tube to go out. That seems like I feel like you're doing more prep work than you are actually painting since the spray is so quickly, but
Yes. Yeah, it's true. Like we always say, like me and my friends who also are mural painters, we always say it's so funny. And not a lot of muralists are willing to do that too. Like a lot of, artists identify, like especially street artists, like are like, no, I just like do my thing and I leave. I don't use tape or do bubbles or anything like that. It's like I just come and do my thing and get out of there and I leave a big mess and nobody cares. But obviously when you were asking me like what sets me apart and why people come back and hire me and then recommend me for other work, which I still firmly believe that word of mouth and people giving recommendations of you to their friends is still the best way to get business, especially aligned in the style that you want to do. But making your workspace really clean and organized and as like leaving it as good as you can, in addition to adding this beautiful art, like people definitely commented on that it has always been really professional. Like I bubble and tape and I do a lot of prep work in order to make sure that wherever I'm creating a giant mess, it doesn't seem like that when I'm gone.
yeah, definitely not adding more work for the homeowner or business owner to do after you've left for sure.
Yeah.
Like being a good house guest, like leave it better than you
Yes.
found it. Yeah, I think it's a business strategy in its own. It's just being likable and dependable and doing things the best way. I think that is the best way to get a good recommendation. So I'm really glad you shared that. And I am so using that tip. I had never thought about that, just the ventilation system. Because when people ask me if I do indoor stuff, I'm like, no, that's a mess. And so now I'm going to say, hold on, let me go to Home Depot and Google this. And so I can see
Yeah.
exactly what it is.
Yeah. Because, if you work with spray paint, like if you don't work with spray paint, you kind of just know what it is in your head, you're not really thinking about it being that messy, because usually when you're spray painting something, you're outside or in like a big area. But when you're in a small area and you're using like multiple cans to cover a wall, you are making a huge mess of dust. Like it's like particles of colors in the air and it drops down and you have to like sweep it up every day. You're like, this is crazy.
Yeah. Makes you think like, I wonder if some spray paint artists like bring a vacuum with them or something. Or like, do you ever have to use the vacuum? Like, or ask the homeowner?
Oh,
Like,
yeah. Yeah, I usually plan to like bubble well enough that I can contain all of it into one area, but then I bring like a broom and dustpan. So every at the end of each day, I'm like sweeping up piles of dust.
I love it. That's a little business tip that nobody talks about. Nobody posts about that on Instagram. The like little cleanup.
Yeah. Yeah, and how long it takes to do the prep work. I've had some projects with my mentor Anna where we did a stairway in like a ski resort, and we painted this like where you would look at it from far away, and it looked like a full picture. And then it also went onto the walls, and she does a lot of illusion based stuff, so it was so crazy. It took us a one full work day, like a 12-hour day, to just prep the space and tape everything.
Whoa.
So you have to charge for that too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, man. Okay, I love it all. Okay, any last bits of tips that like any advice that you would give like your younger self or anybody listening that are just starting out and they want to do what you're doing?
Well, I think listening to things like this, like where you can hear another artist and how they've kind of gone through it, because there really isn't a roadmap to being a successful artist. Like you always think that there is like a secret sauce, or like, is there something that somebody's doing that I'm not doing and like it's a secret from me or something? And I think that's why platforms like this are great, because it's kind of expelling all of that mystery around if it's possible, because I think if you really want to do something and you're really passionate about it, you will find a way. But it's really nice to hear people how they've done it and how there isn't really like a big trick to it. It's just you showing up and doing it over and over and over again until you have figured out what works for you. And so even if like I'm saying, apply for these city things or whatever, like that's not going to work for everyone. And I would say that my success rate in those things is only half and half sometimes. Like I've cast a big net, but I also try to stay specific to the things that I really would like to do. You get really used to hearing rejections from those big projects a lot of the time, but it also makes you stronger. And you're like, okay, well, how could I talk about what I'm doing differently to be more aligned with those types of projects in the future? And you just get better and better at that. And in the meantime, you can rely on like small businesses and friends and people who can connect you to other opportunities while you build your portfolio. And there really isn't like a big secret to doing it. And I think most artists who are working in that space could say that it's always a challenge to like what to find the next project, especially if you're like working in a very specific niche. But that also is the fun part. And it's part of the journey too.
So true. And I think just to touch back on, I think the mural industry is getting more saturated and it's going to continue to get more saturated. And so this conversation is a good nod at if you want to stand out. And also it's way more fun to do what you want to do. So even just maybe artists who, once you've found out what you want to do, start specializing more. And that's the way to stand out. And it's a business plan on its own.
And if you do have the skill, like if you do have multiple skills and you want to be doing like graphic work or sign work, there is so many opportunities for that too. It's just, I would start by like reaching out to businesses and just saying like, hey, like you have a pretty cool business logo and like you have a cool wall. Like, could I just, and it, like, that's a really good way to practice upscaling things and doing bigger projects. If you have a specific art style that you like, or you do paintings and drawings on paper and canvas and you want to start working bigger, I think the best thing that you can do is like ask people to help you, like ask if you can help somebody who's already doing it so that you can see what the process is like. And then also maybe if you're not sure what you want to paint, but you want to paint at that scale, you can offer to do things like logos or like painting what other people want you to paint. But because there is a big jump from painting on canvas to painting on walls, and maybe you're not ready to like come up with a composition, but you think you could try to make something that's all, like that would be easy to upscale, like a logo, and just practice on the wall. Nothing will ever replicate the feeling of painting on a wall other than painting on a wall.
Yeah.
So you kind of just have to go out there and find the ways to start doing that, even if you're not comfortable like upscaling one of your designs yet. Maybe, okay, well, maybe I'm not ready to do one of my paintings, but I could like try to, copy this like logo and sign. And that's kind of how I started getting more comfortable with the medium and more comfortable with the size of walls, was by learning and copying my mentor and her designs. And she like taught me how to. So then you can kind of start doing like, okay, this is how I would do it. And that was just the way that I eased into doing big walls from doing canvas work.
Love it. You are a product of having good parents and and a good mentor. And that just, you can tell, like when I talk to people, even outside of our own industry, people who move fast and are successful young, they have good leadership with them. I mean, it's just so much harder to just go out and figure everything out on your own, just kind of, so props to them, and that you're so fortunate. And I love that for you. So that's so great. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you.
And it is hard to ask for help. Sometimes you're like, it is hard. Like, it's hard to be like, I want to try something new. Nobody likes to like fail at something at first, but you don't realize that you kind of have to in order to get better. And I know people say that all the time, but you don't really do it until you experience it yourself.
So true. Yes. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, Kendall. And I appreciate you. And your Instagram is, what is it again? So people can go see exactly what I saw when I was like, I got to get her on the podcast.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for having me and taking time to sit down and chat with me. I have so many questions for you too, so we'll have to just like switch off. But my Instagram is kendallrose.art and my website is just www.kendallroseart.com.
Love it.
Keep it same.
Awesome. Love it. Simple. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.